Hello, all you attendees in listen-only mode. So we're going to get started here in just a few minutes. We'll give the late arrivers a chance to get in. We'll wait just a couple of minutes, and because I see the number is still ticking up, people are joining. So we'll get things rolling fairly soon. So. There I am. Well, I hope the weather's treating you fine. We live up here in the frozen tundra of North Dakota, and we are finally experiencing spring. So it's been pretty nice.
We hope.
We're finally finding some 70-degree weather anyway. So it's been a very damp and chilly spring for us. So we're hoping we have turned the corner and things will get going. I would say let's go ahead and get started. Just so you know, I'm Bruce Sentai. I'm the guy in the orange shirt on the screen. I've been with Aatrix Software for a little over 20 years. We are a payroll reporting and electronic filing company. So that's been my experience for the past 20 plus years. And we've seen some things really change. The topic we're addressing today is the advent of remote workers. It has certainly, the employment world has changed significantly due to COVID. And I think moving forward, I think remote workers are a fact of life. And so we wanted to look at some of the payroll tax filing implications that are associated with adding remote workers, in particular, adding remote workers outside the state that you're in. One of the things that is surprising, and this is from a survey that's just about a year old, but a lot of business people just simply were not aware of how much time they spend on payroll taxes and payments, and the fact that in many cases, in fact most cases, businesses spend more time filing payroll tax reports and making payments than they do spend on cutting checks and distributing payroll. 63% in the survey found that employers never realized that they were spending that much time, not just on payroll, but payroll reporting. And 70% of them obviously said that the diverse labor laws across the multiple states it complicates the process. And any of you who are filing in 3 or 4 or 5 states are very much aware of how complicated payroll can get once you begin to add a number of states. Small business owners said they spent about 111 minutes to calculate paychecks. They spent 96 minutes to file the taxes and 95 minutes to complete payments. So you can see that payroll administrators are actually spending almost twice as much time on filing reports and making payments than they are on actual distribution of checks. So why are people moving to remote workers? Again, we mentioned it. COVID was the big driver, of course. A lot of people had to close offices, and it just became the only methodology of keeping the building open or keeping your business open, and that was to accommodate the ability for your employees to communicate online, either through Teams or Google Meet or whatever solution, Zoom, whatever solution you chose, and that just became the norm for your existing employees. That precedence, of course, now has set up a situation where there are a lot of workers who used to come to your building are now thinking, why should I have to come back to the building? I like working from home. I like working remotely, and it has become a worker expectation. And that's true now, not only for the workers that you have had for a period of years, it's for those that you're going to try and hire now, because they're coming from similar circumstances where in all likelihood they've been working remotely. And of course, the new labor market is a driving force. There's about 11.5 million open job positions in the United States. And frankly, to find qualified, capable people, in many cases, you have to be willing to hire them remotely and let them work from wherever they currently live. Adding out-of-state workers is going to complicate payroll. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you are currently or have in the past only done payroll in one state, you probably have your hands on it. You know exactly what you're doing. You know how to get that stuff done and how to handle those reports and make payments. But as you begin to add workers from other states that you're not familiar with, it definitely begins to complicate the process. Each state has their own rules, each state has their own filing process, and each state has their own payment schedules, all of that. The first thing you have to do is you have to classify your workers that you are bringing on board. Are they going to be independent contractors, or are they going to be paid employees? You know, that payroll tax compliance element is something you're going to have to research for each state that you get involved with through the Department of Labor, getting IDs, things of that nature. And then the e-filing process itself can become more complicated as you add, especially if you're using state portals, state website portals. Each one of those portals is different. You're going to have different credentials for each one of them. You're going to have a different process for each one of those, and that can definitely complicate the process. The first thing you need to do is classify workers as an employee or as an independent contractor. You know, the first notion for many business people is, well, if they're working remote, I'm just going to make them an independent contractor. It keeps my payroll obligations simple. I don't have to pay benefits. I don't have to do withholding. I don't have to meet a lot of the other workers' comp requirements and things of that nature. The unfortunate truth of the matter is it's unlikely that most of those people, if they are part of your normal staff, that you are handing them similar tasks to what you have your existing employees doing, they're not going to qualify as independent contractors. The IRS has guidelines for that. I would recommend that if you're looking at adding someone new and you're not sure exactly what that status is, that you look at the federal guidelines for independent contractor, self-employed, or employee, and they have a checklist. You can go through that checklist, and it will become fairly obvious early on whether or not they are an employee or whether they're an independent contractor. Misclassifying someone as an independent contractor can get really pricey if the IRS challenges it. I would also say if you're just now beginning to recruit out-of-state workers out of need, pick the right states, recruit in the right areas. There are definitely states that have easier payroll than others. Tennessee, Florida, South Dakota, Nevada, New Hampshire, Wyoming, Alaska, Oklahoma, these are the easiest states for payroll. In most cases, it's because they don't have a state tax. And in many cases, it's because they have a much simpler payroll process and paying process and schedule for payments. The hard ones are pretty obvious, especially if any of you are doing payroll in California, New York, and New Jersey. You know that they're complicated, they're difficult. And they're complicated not only because they have state taxes, but they have local taxes. They have other legal requirements. You know, California has a payroll data report filing requirement. They have different compensation rules for overtime. All of these things complicate payroll in the states that are listed there. So if you're just now getting off, I would start with the easier states if you can, and if you can find your help there, it will certainly help you. Compliance, again, varies widely from state to state. How reports are filed, the timing of filings. You know, you're going to need to, as you add these new states, you're going to have to contact the State Department of Labor and find out what that process is. You'll end up having to set up state IDs. In some cases, you might have to have more than one. You could end up with 2 or 3. You could end up one for withholding. You could end up one for the Treasury group for payments. You could end up with one for unemployment. You could end up with one for workers' comp or whatever. So you're going to need to find out what those rules are and getting that done. You're going to need to verify, of course, that you have the withholding rates, not only the rates but the limits, just so you're complying with the withholding requirements. And then you're going to want to confirm the tax filing and payment schedules. When are their reports due? Are they due at the same time as your 941s, or do they have a more frequent schedule, or are they simply an annual schedule based on the size of your company? State portals, I want to talk about them just a little bit. If you're moving into multiple states, when you first, again, if you're filing only in one state, you'll find your way around a single state portal. You'll figure it out. It may not be the simplest thing, and it may not be the most straightforward, but at least you'll be able to figure that out. As you add additional states, that becomes more and more complicated because every process is different, even within the states. Your unemployment process is quite likely very different from your withholding process. You have new hire filing requirements. You have other things that you need to take care of in each of these states, and they're all under different taxing authorities, and they typically are very different even within states. But certainly as you add 2, 3, 4, 5 states, each one of those is different. Credential management can become a nightmare. Your IT guys are not going to like it if you have a sticky note stuck to your computer with all your passwords on it. So managing that can become a problem, and especially if you have any turnover, because as soon as you have turnover, you have to figure out, okay, where are all those passwords? And just managing those credentials can be an issue. And then solving problems. If you get a notification of a late filing, if you get a notification of non-compliance, resolving those issues is, again, very different in each state. Some require electronic conversation first, an email or communication. Some require written response within so many days. In most cases, you can try and get on the phone and find the right person. Good luck with that. That can become a real problem. And especially in larger states, every time you call, you get a different person, and you almost have to start over with your explanation. So these things with the eFile portals can become very complicated as you add 3, 4, 5 states. Why do these things become complicated and difficult to handle? Well, one of the first things is that 20% of the forms that are used in the US for payroll reporting change every quarter. Sometimes they're very minor changes, sometimes they're significant changes. Keeping up with that can be problematic because however you're building your reporting, whether you're uploading a file or whether you're withholding in the correct way, or if you're allowing for new rules or new legislation that has occurred, 20% of those change every quarter. So if you're in 3 or 4 or 5 states, you will have forms change every year. There's no question about that. Unforeseen complications. Well, the first one obviously was COVID. There were 8 major federal bills since 2020, and those changed a myriad of things, whether you could defer Social Security liabilities, whether you could claim credits on withholdings for employees that you were continuing to employ even though they were not working. And then again, the 11.5 million job openings that are out there, that changing labor market changes rules for payroll. States are recognizing the fact that a lot of businesses within their state are now garnering a number of employees outside of their state, and they're trying to scramble and figure out, how do we get a piece of that as well? So those things can complicate, again, multi-state payroll reporting. So it's about finding the right tool. I'm not going to give you any recommendations, but there are a number of them that are out there. You can find a payroll solution that has a built-in payroll reporting and e-filing tool. that is fully integrated, that maybe makes it easy. You can outsource that to an accountant or someone locally who will just do your payroll reporting for you, or you can go to a payroll agency and have them handle everything. The key to that is figuring out what fits for your company. Obviously, you want it to be simple. You want it to be as efficient as possible. You have to have accuracy, because without that, you leave yourself open to liabilities and issues that have to get corrected down the road. And then, of course, it has to be affordable. It has to fit in your budget and your ability to operate. Are you hiring additional payroll administrators in order to cover some of these responsibilities? And what are the repercussions? Control becomes an issue as well. A lot of businesses want to maintain all of that control in-house. So that's me. Thanks for watching. I don't mean to make this a real a real downer. It isn't. All of these things are manageable, but you should be aware of it. If you're a business owner, CEO, department heads are coming to you and saying, look, we need to hire these guys from out of state, just be aware of what you're getting into and the steps that you're going to have to figure out. It's important that those things get taken care of as quickly as possible, and that those processes are in place before you start adding a whole bunch of people. Once again, Bruce Sentai, that's me in the orange shirt. I had a little more hair there. I had to trim up for this big event. So you can contact me at bruces@aatrix.com. If you have any questions, we can take those offline. If you have anything that's specific to your state or your business or your vertical, and you have a question about anything from certified payroll reports, maybe in the construction field, or how do I handle New Jersey? How do I take care of the New York NYS 45? If you have specific questions like that, you can contact me and we'll take that conversation offline. We'll get those answered. I am seeing a couple things popping up here on my screen. Where is e-filing going? It's going nowhere. E-filing is what it is. It's going to be 100% eventually. Like I said, the requirements currently range from you have to file no matter what, and there are a number of states, more than just Minnesota, that have reports that have to be e-filed. Those that are still working with employee count ranges, those are going to continue to fall down. I know that the proposal is out there this year, and I expect that it will be implemented, and that is anyone filing 10 W-2s this year are going to have to file them electronically. Paper is going away. It's simply too advantageous to the taxing authorities to have things filed electronically. It's easier for them to gather statistics. It's easier for them to compile their revenue and results, and it's much easier for them to monitor for compliance. So it's not going away. Eventually, everybody's going to have to e-file. So if you're currently still printing out a form or two, I would recommend you start looking at finding a way to e-file, because eventually it's going to happen. It's going to happen in the next 3 years, next 5 years, I don't know, but it is going to happen. Eventually, everything will be taken care of electronically. The federal government has actually had a mandate for about 10 years now to move to the eventuality of all communications with all businesses to be electronic. So again, if any of you have specific questions that I can maybe help you with, by all means, email me. If you're not a member of our payroll group, join us. Go to Facebook and find us, Payroll Tax Reporting for Payroll Professionals. We have over 200 professionals that work at every level, from enterprise size companies to mom and pops. And there's a great deal of experience out there with those 200 people who can help answer questions. Feel free to post your questions on the website, and we'll get the right person to you to try and resolve those as well. Thank you all for joining. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you at our next event. So that's to you.